Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Twanna. Thank you so much for being here. And let me get started with Instagram. I'm including Instagram on this tonight. So I have two different cameras. And so you'll be seeing me. They're kind of sort of side by side, but at any rate, I'll be looking up there in that direction. So I do want to say welcome to everybody on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. So again, appreciate you for being here tonight. And I've already got some questions going, and we'll talk about those, right? So if this is your first time meeting me, I am Dr. Twanna Carter, and as a career coach, I empower stressed, busy women who are tackling imposter syndrome and self criticism and doubt. I empower them, right, to alleviate their stress so that they can focus on finding fulfillment, peace, and fulfillment in their careers and excelling in their careers. Because who wants to be stuck 7, 8, 10 hours a day in a job that's stressing you out, right? Really? We don't want to do that, do we? So, tonight, if you're joining me, you know that I am talking about thriving in the midst of toxicity, right? We're talking about unleashing your strengths and your powers, right? And so, I want to be sure I don't come through twice on here. Yeah, we're talking about unleashing your unique strengths and your skills, right? So, again, you see the question there. I asked a question like, how many dollars do toxic work environments cost companies in the United States? Not sure about everywhere else, but in the United States, right? And so, again, that's what we're talking about tonight. And so be sure, I just want to say before we get started, be sure that you subscribe. The button is just right there, right? It is just right there. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can hit that notification bell and it'll turn on the notification so you get notified whenever I go live or whenever I drop a new video. So, yes, the latest research, according to Talent Elements, United States employers lose about 50 billion with a big $50 billion per year before the great resignation ever happened. Before that, 50 billion, $50 billion a year. Toxic work cultures, right? That's a lot of moolah. That's a lot of moolah. Okay. And so I also have another question here. I'm going to take a guess at how many employees in the software industry say that they're working in a toxic environment and they plan on quitting. Any guesses out there? Drop them in the comments. I do welcome your comments. So yeah, the question is what's your guess as to how many people who work in the software industry and say they work in a toxic work culture and they're planning on quitting, right? So this is actually 45% of employees in the software industry say they work in a toxic culture, work culture, and they're planning on quitting their jobs because of that toxicity. That's a lot of people just in that one industry, right? And so that's the reason for this video is toxic work culture isn't just a buzzword. It's just not something people kind of chat about. May or may not exist. Yeah, it actually exists. Okay, it does actually exist. All right. Some of the other things that happen is that when employers are faced with toxic behaviors and situations at work, and this is me, I fully admit, the old me. when I got faced with a toxic work environment or toxic people in that work environment, I didn't do anything. 49%, almost half of the people who said that will survey and they know they're in a toxic work environment or they're working with a toxic coworker, they do absolutely nothing. Nothing. 49% of us. And that was the old me. But I don't know. I just couldn't figure out what to say. And sometimes it's that, I'm afraid to lose my job if I do say something, or what if it's my boss that's being toxic? So these are all the things that will make people just say nothing and just endure. And one of the issues with this is that when faced, when faced with toxic work cultures and work environments, teamwork is diminished. And not only that, but people are less likely to help each other. If you ever walked into a toxic work environment, you just got there and you're looking around like, what in the world happened here? Why does everybody seem to at each other? Because people are less likely to help each other when they're in a toxic work environment, right? So just some food for thought, some stuff to think about. So if you have questions, do go ahead and drop your questions in the comments and I'll answer those on air. If I ever run into anything that I can't answer, I will get your information and I'll get back to you, or just do a whole entire other live to answer that particular question. Sometimes it happens, I'm upfront. Like I tell folks, I don't want to blow smoke up your nose if I don't know an answer to a question, but I will research and get back to you, right? And so the other thing that happens when there's a toxic work environment is productivity suffers, right? It has toxic work environments have negative impacts on productivity. Obviously, when people, employees are stressed or they're anxious or they're just unhappy, they're less likely to be productive at work. And that's anybody, whether you're in management, you're in a C-suite, if you're not in management or the C-suite, yeah, you're unhappy. You're going to make more mistakes. You make more bad decisions or decisions that are not quite probably what you should have been making. You're way less creative when you work in a toxic work environment as well. And you're just less engaged at work. So those are the things that when we talk about what happens in a toxic work environment, that's the overview as a whole. So what happens to us personally when we're in toxic work environments? So let's talk about that for a minute. So here's what happens when you stay in a toxic workplace, right? And again, let me start by defining what is a toxic workplace, because we hear the word toxic a lot. Relationships, workplaces, people, co-workers, bosses. So what is a toxic workplace? So a toxic workplace is a hostile or negative environment where employees may be subjected to bullying, harassment, and or discrimination. And it actually affects your physical health and your mental health. It actually does your spiritual health. It will affect all of it, your emotional health as well. So what are some of the things that happens when it affects your physical health? When you stay in that toxic workplace and you continue to work there, you are more than likely to experience things like more headaches, feel like you're fatigued or tired, like no matter how much rest you get, it just never seems to help, right? Stomach aches, those stomach aches that you get, hypertension, and over the long run, diabetes, arthritis, fibromyalgia, all of those things, lupus even, if you stay in a toxic work environment and you don't leave. And there are also people in toxic work environments are also more than likely to take more leave. I've known folks who are like absent almost every Monday. We call it absenteeism. They're absent for whatever reason, be it if it's a Monday, if it's a Friday. A lot of people do like the Mondays and Fridays. Mondays because they dread so much going into the job. They can't really pull themselves out of bed and make themselves go to work. And Friday, because they're trying to get out of Dodge early, just cut the work week short and call it a day, right? And not only is absenteeism an issue, so is presenteeism. That's when people come to work. They just don't get stuff done. It's so stressful and it's so anxiety provoking. You just don't get much done. You can sit there all day. And at the end of the day, when you look, you've accomplished nothing because you're present, but you're not fully present enough to work. So those are the physical symptoms. And when we talk about our mental health, when you work in a toxic workplace, you are more likely to experience mental health problems, things such as anxiety, right? And depression. And it's not a like or anxiety or depression. You can actually do both. Some folks suffer PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, from being in toxic workplaces. These illnesses can actually happen, right? And these types of problems can lead also to just a decreased sense of well-being. feel like things are going right, or you can become so pessimistic that you feel like nothing will ever go right, which then leads you over into the burnout phase. When you start to be so pessimistic, nothing's ever going to come out right, and you're cynical, you're consistently fatigued all the time. That's when you move over into the burnout phase, right? And you may also have problems sleeping, whether it's sleeping too much or not being able to sleep enough, or you're waking up, you're bolting up in bed at nighttime, just like anxiety, like filled with anxiety. What I got to do? What's going to happen on the job? That is a form of mental illness, a mental health issue that's caused by staying in that toxic work environment. Okay. Something else that happens personally to us, we have increased work family conflict. That's where what's happening at the job creeps over into your family life, which means that conflict at home also increases. And so, just to be sure, and I know some of you may have looked at that title and said, oh, yeah, here's the things I can do to stay in this toxic workplace. That's not really why I'm doing the video. This video isn't so you can stay in the toxic workplace, but for you to recognize what a toxic workplace is and also understand what your strengths and values are so you can get out, right? Your health is always worth more than any job, than any paycheck. And I know some people say, yeah, but I got a mortgage due. You do, but if you die, you're not paying the mortgage anyway. Just saying, or you're not paying the rent. So your health is way more important than that job or that paycheck. It actually is, right? So that leads me to my next things. My next thing here, leaving a toxic workplace. So if you are in a toxic workplace, right, and it's really important to take the steps to protect your health and your well-being. Because again, I'm gonna say that one more again. They say your health. Hey, Yvette, thanks for joining. Yvette is on my Instagram. Hey, thanks for popping in. Again, your health is always more important than that job. It is always more important than a paycheck, right? If you don't believe me, talk to some people who end up having a heart attack or having a stroke at their job, and now they're disabled and they're at home and they can't work, right? Hey, Rosa Pink 2000, thanks for joining. Rosa Pink and Coach Yvette are on my Instagram channel. So, hey, Yvette, thanks for popping in. Look, we got to catch up because I was going to call you this weekend. We do have to catch up. I got some tea. That's what my daughter says. Mom, I have tea. I have tea. I got tea now, right? But so these are some steps that you can take because again, this video isn't about helping you be healthy to stay where you are. It's about making sure you don't get worse and you can leave while you are in a great place, right? So one of the things you want to do, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things for you. So number one, do document the abuse. You know, if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. Now you may feel, so Yvette says, yes, can't wait. We have tea. I have tea. So do document the abuse. Keep a record of the incidents of any bullying, any harassment, and any discrimination, right? And this will be helpful if you are at the point where you do need to file a complaint or take legal action. I'm not an attorney, so I can't tell you when to or not to, but I can say whether you do or don't, document. Because really, if the discrimination that you're experiencing at work in a toxic workplace is based on your age or your race or your religion or your sexual orientation, those things are against the law and you can, contact an attorney. But before you do, it has to be documented, and you have to also tell your employer, because for United States, the EEOC, Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, right? You cannot file a complaint with EEOC and you haven't already spoken to your job. There's a process. There's a time limit of what you have to do when you do, but you do have to allow your job. I hate to say this, but I'm going to reach way back when I was a kid. You got to allow your job first dibs to do something about it first, right? First dibs. Job got the first dibs. Right? So Coach Yvette says record keeping it also helps you remember specific details that you may not remember much later. That is right. And when we're talking about documentation, it is important to say the date, the time, who said what you heard, right? And then also who else was in the room. And don't get me wrong, I've been an investigator, not for, EOC complaints, but I've been an investigator before. Yes, people will lie through their teeth. But the thing is the investigator will come in and we'll talk to everybody individually. And some people just can't lie. They're not going to lie. And so we'll come back and say, you said you weren't here at this time, but I got 5 people that say you were here. So what did you see? And that's typically what will happen. But you want to write down, you don't have to go ask them anything. Just write down who was in the room with you that day, who was nearby. Those things are important, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, talk to your manager if you feel comfortable doing so. Talk to your manager about the problems that you're experiencing. They might be able to solve the issue, unless, of course, they are the issue. Then, you really want to know your company's policies and figure out who's the next person that you go to if your manager is, causing a toxic work environment. But it's important, give your manager that chance, right? Because when you don't give your manager, especially if your manager is cool and you jump over his or her head and you don't give them a chance to at least try to rectify, it makes them look a certain way when it goes up. Like, did you know about this? Did you do anything about it? And now you kind of make them look bad. Now, if they're a part of the problem, hey, they look bad. They're part of the problem. It is just what it is, right? Okay, so that was number 2. Number 3 is do report the abuse to HR. If your manager is unwilling or unable to help, go ahead and report it to HR, right? Because HR typically is responsible for the investigating and resolving workplace complaints. But understand that HR's first duty is always to your organization, not you. It is what it is. That is not to say that there are not some great people. I've met them that are HR. They will pull you to the side and say, hey, my job is XYZ, but girl, let me tell you over here. But don't tell them I told you now. So if you got an HR person like that, if you can keep their confidence, and they are there to help you. But HR is pretty much a wing of your organization that supports your C-suite, whoever's in charge. You call them C-suite or not. So remember that you do need to report to them, but at the end of the day, they're your company's organization. They're there first for your company and you're second. All right. The 4th thing is do seek legal counsel. As I often tell folks, I'm not an attorney. And so when I talk to my clients and I coach my clients, and there's certain buzzwords that I hear that I'll say, I do recommend you seek consultation with someone who knows what to do. And it's not just any old attorney. You want someone who's well-versed in workplace and culture and that type of thing, right? Because if you've been a victim of severe abuse, you may want to consider seeking that legal counsel, because a lawyer can help you understand what's possible, what your legal rights are, and what your options are. So Yvette says HR has an obligation to objectively investigate the matter too. They do, but it depends on how tight HR and the C-suite is. Sometimes there's no wiggle room, and the HR is still there. They are responsible. Coach Yvette is exactly right. They're responsible for investigating, but they're still for the organization first and for the employee second. Okay, so always take that with a grain of salt. The organization first, employee second. That's not to say that some people in HR are not for you first, but overall, push comes to shove, expect that they will always err on the side of lean toward the organization and not you over their organization, because most of them are not going to put their job at jeopardy to help you. They'll go up to a certain, and I have had folks go to a certain limit, and once they reach that limit, we talk about it, and I understand it, and I'm cool with that, right? So be aware of that, and if you are in a place that has unions, for God's sake, go to your union. All right, please go to your union. That is what they're there for. They are good at it. I worked at an organization that used to we're going to win this one in our fight. Let's just go to sleep and fight this one, because unions are well-versed. If you have an organization that does stupid things, and I was in an organization that the management just kept doing stupid stuff. They just did. And the union was on it. So if you do have a union, right, go to your union, and scout around, because sometimes certain people in the union can be way too close to management, and they do put management before they put you. So nothing's perfect out there, but just this is like, be aware of these things, right? But I have been in positions where I went to my union and they were a lifesaver. They were a lifesaver. They got me money back. They unions, look, I'm a union supporter, right? And I know I'm a CEO, but I'm still a union supporter. When I have clients, I'm still a union supporter because they do a lot of good for their members, right? That's why they're there. Okay. So the fourth thing, I'm going to go ahead and add the fifth thing here. I'm going to add another one. Do see your union if you have one. Let's make that 5. I said there was 5 total. Now there's 6 total. Do see your union if you have one. Okay. Which would make number 6, start looking for a whole new job. When I work with my ladies, it depends on how long this has been going on. If we nip it in the bud, then you have a chance of staying at your job and straightening things out. So I've had both to happen. I've had clients to come in. I was like, you're being managed out. That's why you're going through all these things. Chances of you being managed out are really high, right? And I said, how long has this been going on? She told me, and I was like, okay, so we've got about 60 days to save your job. 60 days, right? So, she came to me for anxiety, but we really had to start doing some other stuff real fast to save her job. The great news is we did save the job because she hired a coach. She invested in a coach at the exact right time. Any much later, and she probably would have been managed out and lost her job. And she's an excellent employee. She was an excellent employee. In fact, she went on to win Employee of the Quarter the following year. So she was a great employee. So Coach Yvette says, have to know when to hold and when to fold. Hello, it's not worth the stress. That's right. Kenny, what's his name? Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. Kenny Rogers, know when to hold him and know when to fold him. You really do. You really do. And it was odd. She came to me for anxiety. She's like, I need you to help me manage anxiety because of my supervisor. And when I started working with her, like, the first session in, and she's sitting there, and it's like, you're being managed out. This isn't just about anxiety. I know you have anxiety, but you're being managed out. And we were able to save her job because she invested in a coach, right? That's why it's great to have that third person to help you, right? And so my sixth thing here, if it's going on long enough, like Yvette said, you got to know when to hold and when to fold, right? If it's going on too long, when clients get to me, we're looking for another job because staying is too toxic. The well has been poisoned. You get that mob mentality in your organization where everybody's attacking you. Everything you do is wrong, right? You just have to go. You can't. Sometimes you can transfer to another division, and sometimes you can't. Right? Sometimes it's just, it's not that you've burned the bridges. It's just that the workplace is so toxic. You just got to go. Right? Sometimes that situation isn't improving. You got to look for a new position. That doesn't mean you got to quit today, quit tomorrow, but you do need to start looking for a new position, right? Because that new job can give you a fresh start and then a chance to work in a much healthier environment. Sometimes from the tip to the top, or from the tip to the top to the tip, sometimes the whole organization is just wasted. It's a toxic work culture. And it could take up to 5 to 8 years for a culture in a workplace to change. And that's one of the reasons why I tell folks, when you're looking for another job, just Google EEOC complaints against job X or company X. Just do that quick Google. If you find that they've been hit with several, EEOC complaints in lasted 1, 2, or 3 years, run away, run, right? Because it takes about 5 to 8 years to clear up a culture. If they have EOC complaints in the last 1, 2, or 3, run away, run away. Okay. So Coach Yvette says your reputation can get tainted. Yes, it can. That is exactly true. When the mob mentality comes out and everybody is like taking they're like throwing darts at you and throwing knives at you. Even the people who used to be your friend, you got to go. It is time to go before your reputation is tainted and you can't find anything much better. If it has a run, yes, run away fast as you can. Hire that career coach and run away because it's just not going to get better. Okay, it isn't. So we talked about, when you're leaving a toxic workplace, I had 6 things, right? Document the abuse, talk to your manager, do report it to HR, seek legal counsel, talk to your union if you have a union and you're a member. And some unions will help you whether or not you're a member, just depends on where you are. And then 6 is start looking for that job. So now I want to talk about 3 key pieces of advice for employees who are looking to start a new job after leaving that toxic workplace, right? Hey, Jace, thanks for joining and welcome. So today we're talking about how to survive a toxic workplace. Okay. So 3 keys. My next thing is 3 key pieces of advice for employees who are looking to start a new job after leaving a workplace. And that's the other reason why I'm doing this, is because people can become demoralized. And I've talked to women who've been in toxic workplaces for so long, all of their confidence is gone. All of their self-efficacy gone. All of their self-esteem gone. And so they don't think they can do any better. That is what a toxic workplace will do for you. It will erode your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and your self-efficacy, your belief that you can do things and accomplish things and achieve things. That's what self-efficacy is. It will decrease it. So here's my my advice if you're looking for a new job. Do take your time. Right? Don't rush into a new job because you're so eager to leave the last one. And I do have some folks who come to me. They've been in workplace after workplace after workplace. It's like, why leave? Because it keeps being toxic. Because you're not doing something right. You know, you're under duress and you're taking the first thing out there. So take your time. Do some research on those companies. I am fine. Thanks for joining us. So Jake Scott asking how I'm doing. I am doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you doing on this Wednesday? Right. So I didn't say it at the top, but I'm here every Wednesday, 8:35 Eastern Time, 7:35 Central, and 5:35 Pacific Standard Time every Wednesday. Been doing it now 3 years. I'm so proud of myself. I pat myself on the back. So a lot of people don't know I have social anxiety and I'm an introvert. And so there's just days that I don't want to be bothered with people because that's just my thing. I want to be in my little shell all by myself and just be to myself. But I do have a question here on LinkedIn. But I've committed to doing this every Wednesday. I think I've missed a Wednesday because I had a dental appointment. Missed one because I messed it up. I was in Costa Rica, missed the time. So I have a question from a LinkedIn user. Where can we find existing EEOC cases on a future company? Google. You will be surprised what you find on Google. Right. And I took an ethics course in my PhD program for businesses. And all you got to do is let your fingers do the walking. Say, let me just make up a name. EEOC complaint against Hullabaloo Company. I don't want to call any companies out there because I don't want to pretend they have issues. But you type in EEOC against Hullabaloo Company X. If they have EEOC complaints against them, it comes up. You can read the cases. I'm telling you, juicy. It will make you think, what were people thinking? Did people really do this? Yes, they really do that. Because it's all there for public records for you to see. It's just there. You can go in and read the complaints. I know 2 companies. I will not call them out, but they're 2 big box companies and their competitors. I was shocked at the EEOC complaints. And I'm not going to call the name because it's been a while since I Googled them, but I was reading through all the complaints and I was shaking my head, scratching my head like, really, y'all? But yes, you just Google EEOC complaint against whatever company. And if there is something, it'll pop up and just go and read the case study. Read it. It's there to see. It's public knowledge. Yeah. Yeah, it sure is. Thanks for that question, my LinkedIn user. Appreciate it. LinkedIn is on tonight. Yay, LinkedIn. Yay, Instagram. Yay, Facebook. And YouTube and Twitter. So definitely ask away if you got questions. Okay. So I was saying, take your time, do that research on the companies to make sure it's a good fit for you, right? And also be prepared to negotiate. And I say this because, again, when you've been in a toxic workplace, it messes with your confidence and your self-esteem. So be prepared to negotiate. Don't just walk in the door going like, well, I got to set whatever you can give me because I got to get out of here. No, you don't. you don't. You still can go in and get top dollar. You still have value, right? And then, because again, don't be afraid to negotiate your salary and your benefits when you're offered that new job. You may be able to get a higher salary or better benefits if you're willing to negotiate basis, right? Because I heard someone say, he is the CEO of a big company. He said, when I interview people and they work for my competitor, I'm more apt to hire them because they already have the skills that I need. So they're going to do a good job. So go to your competitor, go to your company's competitor and get a job. Now, if you've got non-compete clauses, you need to get legal advice on all that stuff, but hop on over to your competitor and don't accept less. Definitely go for more, right? It is possible. Okay. And then number 3, don't be afraid to start over. A lot of people feel this way. The reason why they will stay in that toxic workplace 10, 15, even 20 years is because I don't want to start over at the bottom. So Coach Yvette says, one job's loss is another's gain. It is, and they will pay you handsomely, right? They will pay you well. You got to negotiate, right? But people go, well, I don't want to go to another job because I'd start over at the beginning. No, you don't. You didn't start over at that job. And if it is your first job, you've been there 10 years, you're an employee with 10 years experience. You don't have to start over at the bottom. Now, if you don't negotiate and go into this right, you will start at the bottom. But that's the thing about getting help, right? So no, you don't have to start over at the bottom. But remember, you're not starting from scratch. You have experience. You probably have way more experience than you think just getting through that toxic work environment, right? And so you do have experience and you have skills that are valuable to that next employer. So don't be afraid to start over and find that new job because you're starting over at the new job, but not always at the bottom. You don't have to, right? I've never started less than. I've taken a job once or twice. I think once where I got the same thing, but never shifted and made less because you don't have to, right? So here are some additional tips for starting a new job after leaving a toxic workplace. Do be positive and enthusiastic doing your job search. Employers are more than likely to be interested if you come across as positive, upbeat, and motivated and enthusiastic, right? And do highlight your transferable skills and your experience. That's where how you show your value, right? And you do have value. So when you're applying for new jobs, highlight those things that make you stand out. Take a course. I was good for this. If I knew I was about to leave or was headed in that direction, I would make sure I took a new course in whatever I wanted my next job to be in. I would, right? So resume automatically updated because now you have this new course and your boss, your new company know you're serious because you've got 1, 2, 3 courses already completed for the new job. That's how I roll. That's why I do what I do now as a career coach, because I would take some classes, because again, this shows employers that you have skills and knowledge that they're looking for, even if you're coming from a different industry. I've gotten into a new industry, never worked there, and got hired over people who've done the job for 10, 15 years. You have to know how to sell your transferable skills and your skills, right? You just have to know how to do that, and it is possible. And also be prepared to answer questions about that toxic workplace. So Coach Yvette says your value is defined by you and not your job. Exactly, because when you leave, you take the value with you. You do. You don't leave your value behind. It goes with you. Okay. So definitely be prepared to answer questions about that toxic workplace. Just sit down and write out the answers. Don't let it be a surprise for you to get the question. At least this is what I coach my ladies to do. Write that stuff out beforehand. All right. Employers may ask you questions about your previous job and why you left. And they may do that because they know it's a toxic workplace. And they just want to see what you're going to say. So the goal is to never go in and badmouth your employer. Never badmouth the old guy. Because if you badmouth the old guy, the new guy is going to think, yeah, you'll do the same thing to me. Don't badmouth, but have your answers prepared and make it personable to you, why you left and what you're searching for. And, I coach people to answer it in this manner, right? They ask you why you left, and you can say, I reached this pinnacle, I did this, and I'm looking for this, this, this. And that's exactly what you're looking for in this new job, right? So you want to flip it back to the old job. You don't want to get entrenched with that SOB did this to me, and I can't believe how dirty they did me. No, don't do that. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. Okay. No matter how tempted you are, it is not what you do because some folks will not hire you. Okay. So be prepared to answer those questions and be prepared to answer them professionally. Okay. And so Coach Yvette says, don't lie, but don't tell everything. That's the perfect. Thank you. You don't want to lie, right? You don't want to make it seem like they're the best thing in the world. Because guess what? Some of the people already working there, they know what the situation is. All right. Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining. So thank you, Coach Yvette. Don't lie, but don't tell everything either. So there's the perfect space in between don't lie and don't tell everything. That's what you want to go for, right? And it typically work out great when you write the answers down, practice them, and then you can answer the question. It doesn't blindside you, so you're not deer caught in the headlights. And no matter how much you hate your boss or hate that job, don't badmouth. Because again, if they ask you 1, 2, or 3 questions, they're asking you because they already know the environment. They just want to know what you're going to say. Spin it to make yourself look good, not the old company look good, to make yourself look good, right? And then my next piece of advice, the fourth piece of advice is don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're struggling to find that new job, don't be afraid to invest in a career coach. Again, when we say career transition, it doesn't mean you're going to work and quit your job tomorrow. Although some folks have been told that they have been so ill that their doctors are like, yeah, you either quit the job or you stay and die. That's a different situation. In case that you need to run to a career coach to help you find what you need, right? But definitely, invest, because a career coach is an investment, right? And I do offer complete services from support with exiting that toxic workplace to a blueprint and a guide to get you on board with your next job, right? That guidance and that strategy for your job search. And that when you're working with the career coach, you don't end up in yet another toxic work environment, right? Because this is the number one reason why ladies tell me they have stayed as much as 15 years in a toxic workplace. Because this is my third toxic workplace. Why leave? This is just what it's going to be like. Hire a career coach. Invest in a career coach, because it doesn't have to be like that. I promise you, it doesn't have to be like that. Okay. So again, hire that career coach so you don't have to jump from the pot to the proverbial frying pan. Right. And so I have a recent client who had been in several jobs and they were just all stressful, very toxic, right? Just about 3 jobs, all line up behind the other. This time around, she decided to invest in a career coach. She hired me, right? So not only did she find another job that she absolutely loved, she finally made it to the C-suite. That's what she'd been trying to work on for several years, like the past 5-10 years or so. So she landed her first C-suite job, got the salary she wanted, right? Got guaranteed bonus. As long as she does what she is supposed to, guaranteed bonus. And she got equity in the company. And she was like, now, hey, Ahamba, I think it is, or Ahamba, thanks for joining. And she was like, oh, I'm up in the morning. I'm doing my makeup. I'm doing my hair because I feel so much better going into my job. She's like, I'm spending more time with my family. We're taking vacations. I'm not stressed out. This is the best thing that could have ever happened. You don't have to land in yet another toxic job. That's why you invest in a career coach. And she did so well, she hired me to follow on as her executive coach, right? So again, an investment in a career coach is that it's an investment. And it's important to understand you're not alone, right? There are many people who have experienced toxic workplaces and they successfully moved on, and you can too. So if you're struggling, I'm available for you. I'm enrolling to my program, Power Principles, confidently command your career without compromising your values or your personal life. It's a 6-month coaching program. You have the power to leave that toxic workplace that's harmful to your health and your wallet, right? Because again, stress, being in a toxic workplace causes fibromyalgia, diabetes, hypertension, lupus, right? All of those things, chronic pain. You have the power to leave. And when you say you leave, all right? And you can do that. So It all starts with the 15-minute. I'm sorry, not with a 15-minute. That was an old program. I'm with the new program now, right? It all starts with actually a 30-minute career solution call, right? I went from 15 to 30 minutes because I found that I needed that 30 minutes and it just works well. All right. So I dropped the link where you can request that call. You'll fill out a contact sheet, tell me what's going on. And within 24 to 40 hours, 48 hours, I review that. And then I'll send you the links where you can get your call scheduled, right? Because you don't have to stay in that toxic workplace, right? The quickest one I left, and I'll be honest with you, week 2, I thought this is not gonna work for me. At the 30-day point, the mob started to form, and I was like, I've been here 30 days. I haven't even met you people for you to do this. And so I knew within the first 30 days I had to leave. And I started networking then. It took me another 2 months to find a position, and then for them to get everything worked out, another 3 on that. So I left in 6 months. I was like, sorry, Nar, wouldn't want to be it. You can do it, right? You can do it without losing your salary and without losing your pay. So do reach out to me, and thank you so much because you guys hung in there. Thank you for the feedback and the comment. Love it, love it, love it. Again, you have the link there to reach out to me to set up that 30-minute call with me, that career solution call. We'll talk about what you're going through. I'll talk about how I can help you. And then if it absolutely makes sense, well, I'll show you how to get started with that next step. Okay. So thank you for hanging in there. Appreciate it. Until same time next Wednesday, let that light shine bright. Next Wednesday, you want to come back because I'm talking about boosting your self-confidence and leadership, 12 proven ways. So I will see you next Wednesday, and thanks for joining. Bye-bye.